So, Facebook doing hashtags? What do you think of that? I mean, really?
Well, I think Facebook doing hashtags is a recognition of the fact that advertisers like the public space. And hashtags are an example of the public space. If you look at the absolute pinnacle of all advertising, the Super Bowl, of 52 advertisers on the Super Bowl, 26 had Twitter hashtags, only 4 had Facebook fan pages. Hashtags are a way to attract advertising dollars.
Well, we've been talking about this whole idea that Facebook seems to be having sort of an identity crisis. Does it want to be more like Twitter or more like Google? Or is it really just a place where you go to look at pictures of your friends' kids? I mean, you know, what's going on here?
Yeah, Facebook has gone through an evolution. In 2004, when I first discovered the company, it was a private social network, but not only that, you could only see people on the same server from the same school. It was .edu only. Since then, they've moved increasingly into a public platform, being a semi-public space, and now being a completely public space with Facebook fan pages, and really encouraging people to post content to the whole world. Twitter, on the other hand, has been very, very consistent in its entire life. It's been a public broadcast network, and in this case, nowadays, designed perfectly for mobile.
Now, you mentioned you discovered Facebook, and you really are sort of the unsung hero of Facebook. You brought Facebook to Excel. Tell me the story. I mean, how did you find it?
It was a little bit of a freak occurrence. So I was working part-time as an associate for Excel Partners, but I was also in business school at Stanford. And back then, it was really unique. Facebook.com, you had to have a .edu address to even log in or see any of the content on the site. So I had an unfair competitive advantage. I was the only active venture investor who was also a student at the time. So I was sitting in the basement of the Stanford Business School with my friend Seth Sternberg, the founder of Meebo.
Right.
And he said, hey, I'm leaving business school. I'm going to join this company called Facebook. And I said, Seth, you're crazy. What are you talking about? And then he told me 65% of the users log in every day, 85% log in every week. Within a month of entering a school, 80% of the students are signed up. At that point, I immediately told my colleagues at Excel, we have to get on this. I gave them my Facebook password because it was the only way to get on the service with a .edu address, and the rest is history.
So you then went on to Kleiner Perkins. Why leave Excel?
Well, you know, different situations arise, you know, at different times along the way. And Kleiner had an incredible opportunity for me to help participate in building their consumer franchise.
Do you benefit financially, though, from your discovery of Facebook through Excel?
Yeah, a little bit. Not as much as one would hope, but a little bit. And certainly the opportunity to build the practice that we've done at Kleiner has been fantastic. Investments in Twitter, in Spotify, Flipboard, Path, Zarly, early stage and late stage companies. That's been fantastic.
So let's talk about the future of social. You know, there's been a lot of talk about, oh, consumer is out, enterprise is in. Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn have the market cornered. There's no sort of breaking that trifecta. Would you agree with that?
Definitely not. If you look at 10 years ago, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Spotify, Tumblr, none of these internet properties existed, and they all reach over 100 million people a month now. So I think it's not only not the case that there won't be new companies, it's almost a certainty that over the next 10 years, at least half of the top 10 companies on the internet will turn over every 10 years.
So what do you think are the next Facebook, Twitters, and LinkedIns?
Well, I think there's a lot of companies that are quickly rising, and then there's some early stage companies. In terms of later stage opportunities, it's pretty clear that Instagram has, in some respects, replaced Facebook for the younger generation. And then I think we're now living in a privacy-sensitive era, and I think companies like Path and Snapchat are going to do very, very well because they emphasize privacy and security for all the content that's on their platform.
You know, I use Path, I like Path, you know, I really respect Dave Morin as a founder. You're on the board,
yeah.
But, you know, it's not mainstream yet. How does it get there?
It gets mainstream in small communities. What we're actually seeing with Path is that instead of kind of a general adoption evenly across a country or the world, it occurs in little pockets. So you'll see individual countries or individual cities get really networked. Last summer, for example, we saw a bunch of high schools in Austin get super networked. A bunch of colleges in Miami get super networked. And over that period of time, as you start building these small networks, they're highly, highly defensible because people love it and they use it much more than they do a general purpose network like a Facebook.
So what happens to Facebook then? I mean, if you think that, you know, Instagram has replaced Facebook and Snapchat and WhatsApp have the potential to really shake things up, what happens to Facebook in 5 years?
I think Facebook becomes an identity platform, and that's what they're trying to do right now with Facebook Open Graph. They're trying to suck in all of the usage data from all internet services on a single platform. But the number one problem they're solving is with your mobile phone, with a click of a Facebook button, you can instantly have all of your friends and preferences ingested into that new application that doesn't know you. My guess, long term, Facebook ends up being a toll collector of sorts, where applications are going to be paying Facebook for access to that identity information.
So what does that mean for users? If Facebook has 1 billion users today, 5 years from now, do they have 2 billion or
I
not
think
much
so.
more than they have today?
I think so, but the big questions are really, can they crack China and can they crack Russia? But otherwise, they have pretty much a free run to the rest of the internet-connected world.
What about how they monetize going forward?
I think it will probably look a lot more like this identity platform than it does advertising today. And right now, they're really focused on advertising monetization. If you visit Facebook.com or you look on your iPhone or Android device, more than half the screen space is an ad when you first load it. That's unprecedented. That's never happened in internet history with any of the websites. Facebook's very, very focused on that, but in the transition away from being an audience business into a platform business, I think they're going to have to start charging people for access.
So what about Twitter then? Where's Twitter 5 years from now?
Twitter is positioned wonderfully for the mobile revolution because their product 5 years ago, people thought was crazy. Why, in an era when you have so much screen real estate, would you want to constrain the content to 140 characters? It was a little ridiculous at the time. But Jack and Ev and that team was forward-looking enough to know we were moving to a world of mobile products where there isn't a whole lot of screen space and you want to consume as much information as you can in that tiny little screen. Twitter makes it possible, and they're integrating more media bit by bit into that and starting to consume the entire media distribution experience.
So Kleiner is an investor in Twitter, has shares in Facebook. How do you see Facebook versus Twitter 5 years from now? Is one more powerful than the other?
I think they end up serving different roles in the internet ecosystem. Facebook, I think, will continue to be an identity platform, an acquaintance network, not really a friends network, because Twitter has got to the point where too many people are on it and you have 500, 1,000, 1,500 friends. It's how you get connected to all the people who you know. Twitter, on the other hand, becomes an information network. You may not see the people, you may not know the people that you're following, but they're the people that are creating the most interesting content, whether it's a broadcast entity like a Bloomberg or an individual like Emily, creating interesting content, and I follow that really in a broadcast model.
Can Twitter, though, get to 1 billion users?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
I think it's a certainty.